A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Sunday evening. I did try to get this video out a little earlier today, so my apologies. It's going out quite late. And I was going to talk. It was really the reason why it's going out a bit late is because I kind of changed my mind as to what I wanted to talk about. Usually, a day or two after the game, any game that's played, I put out a reflection about the game itself, and then when I started to sort of write some notes, think I got bit carried away and I started looking at tactics and players and academy and all that sort of stuff. So I thought, okay, I'll change this around a little bit and talk about Graham Potter and the tactics that he's used and the way he's taking West Ham United forward. Normally, I would have sort of talked about the game, and to be honest, after the FA Cup game, I would have talked about how upset I'd be after going out of the FA Cup in the third round. And surely I must be feeling some kind of anger, but yet I don't. Of course, it's disappointing to now realise that all we have to look forward to this for the rest of this season is some way of stabilising our season, improving our league position, hopefully climbing up the Premier League table, and that's all we've got to look forward to. But despite my not being 100% certain about Graham Potter being given the West Ham job in the first place, I've got to be honest, he has shown how much he can do, and with the current squad that he has, how he's able to change things around so quickly and utilize the squad afforded to him in such a short space of time. And the way we played for the first 70 minutes of our FA Cup game away to Aston Villa just shows how much more a good head coach can get out of this squad if we continue to play on the front foot. Look, if you're new to this channel, please do consider becoming a subscriber of the West Ham Voice. The content is free, costs nothing to subscribe. And whether you're a new subscriber or not, please do hit the like button if you appreciate the video, the content. So all of a sudden, we started to play with the pace and the energy that we've been lacking all season. We moved the ball a lot quicker. We seemed to have more energy in our play. We just wanted to pass the ball forward all the time. And we could see on the players' faces and their attitudes that they relished the challenge and they rose to it. In return, the 6,000 travelling fans were right behind the team from start to finish. And had it been for better officiating and had we not had so much bad luck with injuries, then maybe, just maybe, the result would have been a lot different. So for me, there are three clear takeaways from that one game and the few days that Graham Potter has been in charge. And they are the use of the academy players, the gaps that Potter has to try and fill in this January window because of injuries and the new tactics that he's adopting, and the strategy and the approach that Potter is now taking moving forward. So let's start with the academy. And how refreshing it was for a head coach to show faith in the young players available to him and to have started Ollie Scarles in this game. There's an argument to suggest that Scarles only started because this game was a cup game, and had it been a league game, then maybe Scarles wouldn't have got his chance. But I would beg to differ. Scarles was our man of the match. He put in a disciplined performance, which was worthy of him keeping his place in the next game that we've got at home to Fulham on Tuesday night. He's got himself properly involved with his defensive duties, as well as the attacking display that he offered. He offered a threat down that left side. And his youth, his pace, and his exuberance is likely to have put paid to any talk of possibly bringing in Ben Chilwell from Chelsea in this transfer window. At least I hope so. Maybe in the summer, should Emerson leave West Ham United, then maybe Chilwell would be a consideration at that point. But I saw enough of Ollie Scarles in the brief cameos that he's already played this season, plus the game against Aston Villa. His performances to me have suggested that we've got a very, very good option from the academy to play down that left-hand side. And with Emerson still injured, Potter Potter could have easily adopted or opted for a tried and tested approach of using Aaron Cresswell, but he showed enough faith in Scarles to suggest that the young player can stake a claim in the starting lineup for the remainder of this season. Potter has clearly done his homework on our academy, and he would have been made aware of Scarles' abilities by having spoken to the backroom staff and possibly Mark Noble as well. And if that's the case, then we've got every hope that the likes of Freddie Potts, Callum Marshall, Gideon Kodua, Caelan Casey, Lewis Orford, to name but a few, will now have a much better chance to stake a claim in the senior squad in the future as well. I know a lot of these players are out on loan, but if they continue to do well, then maybe they come back at the end of the season and Potter may give them serious consideration. And it's great. I've been saying for an awful long time, we need a manager, a head coach that's not only going to worry about the here and now, which is what David Moyes had to do, which is what Lopetegui kind of seemed to do, but also someone that is looking forward into the future. And well done to Graham Potter for having put enough faith in Ollie Scarles to start. And we've got other players in our squad, Caelan Casey, as well as Lewis Orford, that might be able, who are currently playing in the under-21s, that might be able to offer Potter something in the here and now. And then, of course, we've got to look at reinforcements in the transfer window. The FA Cup against Aston Villa came at a hefty price. Not only do we have Antonio out injured for the long term, and Bowen as well as Todibo and Emerson on the sidelines. Alphonse Areola was also missing from the squad on Friday, and we don't know at this stage whether he was injured again or maybe simply had been dropped, but he wasn't even on the bench. But we also saw the loss of Dinos Mavropanos, Nicholas Füllkrug, and Crescencio Somerville, all going off with injuries as well. Now, with regards to Füllkrug, I think we can kiss this season goodbye to him. Look, he's going to be out till mid-April with his hamstring injury, but there won't be that many games left. All right, we're going to have the rest of April and May as well, but I think maybe if we look at bringing in a striker in the transfer window, we may not see Füllkrug again this season. Now, we already know that Jared Bowen is coming back around about mid-February. And it's quite possible with him coming back and by bringing a player in the transfer window, like I said, I'm not so sure Füllkrug will get much game time. As for Todibo, Emerson and Somerville, it looks as if they might all miss the game against Fulham on Tuesday. But there is hope that some of them or all of them will be back for the Crystal Palace game next weekend. Now, as for Mavropanos, it looks like he might just be okay for the Fulham game on Tuesday night. Although, to be honest with you, if you ask many West Ham fans right now whether they would be happy for Mavropanos to be available, I would wager that many of them would say that they're not that happy of him coming back at all. He's had his chances this season to impress, but he's just not managed to demonstrate that he deserves to be selected over other players like Todibo when he comes back and so on. His passing is wayward. His player tracking is not being impressive. And he seems to back off players too much to give them room to damage. In fact, the only time he seemed to actually play well this season was when Lopetegui was forced to play him as right back. You could see, I mean, sometimes he just seems to lack confidence. And again, I'm really worried about Mavropanos coming back. And maybe with Potter preferring a back three lineup, this is where Mavropanos is, maybe he's got a saving grace at playing on the right side of centre-back. But when you've got Aaron Wan-Bissaka demonstrating yet again that he's capable of playing in any position you ask him to, I'm not so sure Mavropanos will get much game time if we look at bringing in any more players in this window. And I think we're going to be targeting another centre back, to be honest with you. Now, during the game against Aston Villa, despite the corner not being a corner, which led to Aston Villa's first goal, Lucas Fabianski reminded us all why Arsenal fans nicknamed him Flappy Hansky. Because he dropped the ball when the ball came back into that box. He dropped the ball to allow Villa to score their first goal. Now, with no way of knowing what's going on with Areola, well, I guess we will find out on Tuesday night if he's going to be our number one again. Potter will know that we really need to invest in a goalkeeper in the summer. Probably unlikely to be in this window, but certainly in the summer. Although we've heard recently of the news that Christian Heggie, highly rated academy keeper, has returned from his short loan spell at Motherwell. He was rarely used at Motherwell, used for a couple of cup games, but that was it. I don't think Fabianski will be given a new deal in the summer, to be quite honest with you. And with, Heggie can at least offer some competition for the third slot, goalkeeping slot in the squad. And I think we'll be looking at a new goalkeeper in the summertime as well. Now, despite spending £40 million on a shaky-looking Kilman, who I would say was at fault for Aston Villa's second goal because he just didn't boot it away in time, and with the likes of, I've already said, Mavropanos not playing well, and then you've got other players like Soufal and Emerson not showing the quality that they once had, I think Potter will be looking for some kind of a player replace, some kind of centre-back in this transfer window coming up. All right, we've got the likes of Scarles, as I've mentioned. I've mentioned Kalen Casey, who plays as a centre-back, and Ezra Myers, who's also featured on the bench. I think Potter is going to not necessarily risk utilising those players at centre-back, the young players, but going for a centre-back in this window. Now, he might look to go for, look at his old club and see what he can get there. Now, Levi Colwill, is a centre-back that Potter will be all too familiar with. He developed through the Chelsea Academy system. He went out on loan during Potter's reign at Brighton. And now he's a regular in the starting lineup for Chelsea. And he's keeping Axel Desai out of the first team. And so I wonder if we can make a cheeky bid for a loan signing of Desai in this transfer window. It'll be interesting to see if we do rate. I know there's an awful lot of talk about rating Chelsea for midfielders, but with Desai having come into Chelsea in the summer of 2023 for a fee of 45 million euros and being kept out of the team by Colwill, I wonder if we might look at the potential of putting in a cheeky loan bid for him in this window. Now, we know all too well that Naif Agurd cannot come back from his loan spell at Real Sociedad. There was no clause to bring him back at any time. So he's out of the picture. Now, I know we can use Edson Alvarez to play at centre-back, but I think his skills are going to be much more in demand as a defensive midfielder right now. So I doubt Potter will be too keen. I think if he's desperate, he'll have no choice. But I don't think he'll be too keen in playing him as centre-back anytime this season. And herein lies the next area that Potter would need reinforcements for. So we've already identified that we really need a centre-back in this window, but also central midfield is an important area as well. Now, there's news that Monaco have made an official bid to get Alvarez in on loan. I don't think for 1 minute that we're going to be allowing Alvarez to leave West Ham United in this transfer window, unless, of course, we can get in an alternative to him. Now, there's talk about Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall coming to West Ham, and he's a decent player, but he's more a box-to-box midfielder than he is a defensive midfielder. Now, to get Dewsbury-Hall on loan is one thing. To buy him in this window, we just simply haven't got the money, which is even more reason why it's not looking likely that we would allow Alvarez to leave on loan. If Monaco were ready to buy Alvarez and pay the 35 million pounds that we spent on him, or even more money, because we should be making a profit on that player, then maybe we could put a bid in for Dewsbury Hall, or we can put a bid in for Carney Chukwuemeka from Chelsea as well. He was signed from Aston Villa. He went to Chelsea in the first summer that Potter was there. So he'll be all too aware of Chukwuemeka's ability. If he signed him for Chelsea, then you know that he highly rates him. Now, we can't buy both Dewsbury Hall and Chukwuemeka, but getting one on loan and one on a permanent, yes. But that means we would have to sell Edson Alvarez. So I don't see Edson Alvarez leaving West Ham United on loan unless Monaco want to make a bid for him. So that's another area that we know that we need improving in this window. We need to get a box-to-box midfielder in West Ham United. So there's a centre-back and there's a box-to-box midfielder already. And then, of course, with Fulkrug out for 3 months, Antonio, who knows? Maybe not even likely to play professional football again in the future. And Danny Ings demonstrating that, alas, the best years are behind him. It's obvious that West Ham, absolutely need a striker in this window. Now, Potter himself has kind of hinted that he could deploy Mohamed Kudus in that role. But with Bowen and Somerville out injured as well, as well as Fulkrug and Antonio, it demonstrates that we're really, really desperately in need of other options. Much talk has been made about Evan Ferguson coming on loan to West Ham, but as we've been told quite a few times now, that Brighton are not willing to allow Ferguson to go on loan anywhere until they have a better idea as to whether Danny Welbeck will be back from his injury sooner rather than later. If Welbeck is not back sooner, then I can't see us waiting for Ferguson as an option. But for me, to be honest with you, I did say I don't think Ferguson is the answer. There is, of course, so much talk about bringing in, excuse me. Where did that go? There he is. There's so much talk about bringing in Marcus Rashford in this window. But as I've maintained, on a salary of over £300,000 a week, I mean, he's fallen out completely with manager Ruben Amorim, who didn't even consider him for the FA Cup game against Arsenal earlier today. But with a £300 salary, Man United are going to have to agree to paying at the very least 2/3 of his wages for West Ham to even remotely consider him coming to the club. Look, would he be a good option for West Ham? Yeah, I guess he would. Even though he plays out wide, Rashford would offer us so many different options. The likes of Kudus playing up front, Rashford out on the left, Somerville deployed on the right, etc. It could work. You could even use Rashford as a striker as well, and I dare say he would do well. And many people are suggesting he would have the Lingard effect. Look how we resurrected Lingard's career when he came to West Ham. Yeah, that's a possibility. Rashford is only 27 years of age as well, so he's not old, and maybe he could offer us something. But I maintain, what would the deal be for West Ham? Would Man United want to see a deal if on loan with an obligation to buy? Quite possibly. Amorim doesn't want him at the club, but we wouldn't even be able to do that at West Ham, because the minute you get that player from a loan to a permanent, that means you're responsible for his 300 grand a week salary. West Ham can't afford that. So we've talked about academy. We've talked about what we need in the transfer window. And the next thing, of course, is to look at Graham Potter's tactics. Look, it's been impressive. Let's be really honest. I'm surprised. I won't lie. I'm surprised. What Potter has managed to do in the very short space, one training session that he's had available to him. Now, I suggested last week when Potter was confirmed that we might see a change in the way he uses his wide players. And so it proved to be, with Aaron Wan-Bissaka going as the right side of centre-back, Somerville being used on the right, and Kudus being given a different role in Potter's first game. Many West Ham and Ghanaian fans would have been crying out for Mohamed Kudus to be played more centrally. And Potter did just that in his very first game in charge. Now, instead of planting Kudus out on the left, he gave him a place on the inside right of attack, supporting the striker, and Kudus looked to finally come to life after such a poor season so far by his standards. With the prospects of Kudus maybe even playing as a striker, I think we're going to see a revitalized player here in the coming weeks and the coming months of this season. There were several fans suggesting that Aaron Wan-Bissaka would do really well on the right side of a three at the back, and so it showed yet again. Potter didn't disappoint, and he played him on that right side in the game on Friday night. And in typical Aaron Wan-Bissaka style, he just didn't let anyone down. He's played as a right wing back, he's played as a right back, he's played as a left back, and now he's played, I think he even played in the middle of the park at one point earlier on this season, and now he's played as a right centre back, and he was impressive. But the biggest surprise for me was in where Graham Potter used Crescencio Somerville on the right side of wing back in front of Aaron Wan-Bissaka and just behind Mohamed Kudus. That was a masterstroke because the combination of those three players down that side actually looked exciting. We had pace, we had tactics. It just worked. It looked to work. You know, Somerville seemed to not only support Wan-Bissaka when needed, but he also supported Kudus further ahead of him. Look, we keep Wan-Bissaka in his role at right centre back. You can start seeing that when we've got other players coming back from injury, etc., the formation makes sense for West Ham United. You know, doesn't matter who you've got in goal. I still maintain I think Areola is going to be our number one for the league for the remainder of this season. Wan-Bissaka will will go alongside Todibo when he comes back, and Kilman on the left side, utilizing that three at the back. You know, they'll go wide, which means that the players in front of them, like Souček and Alvarez, will kind of protect that back three when needed. And then, just in front of them, Somerville showed that he can not only go forward, but he also demonstrated that he could help out in defence when need be. And I put Emerson on the left side, but you could argue that Ollie Scarles could keep his place on that side. But it just demonstrates that you've got the players available to be able to do that. And then further forward, you can get all the players in that you want. Kudus, Bowen, Somerville, they can all play in that starting lineup. Now, I put Kudus and Paqueta just behind Bowen, but you could also put Bowen in that inside right role and put Kudus up front as well. And then when you look at the bench, you've got the likes of Solaris back up. I mentioned Ollie Scarles, Mavropanos, and so on. Even without getting players in this transfer window, Potter's tactics look to work much better for West Ham United than they did under Lopetegui. And I think that's something to also look forward to. Potter is using the squad in a way that he's trying to get the best out of them. He's got a big task ahead of him against Fulham because we've got even more injuries to contend with, but it's looking good. And I'm impressed. And I didn't think I'd be impressed after just one game, but I am. Of course, there's a long way to go. Of course, it could all go wrong in the game against Fulham. But I think we've seen in that one game something to sort of hang on to. So well done to him. I'm looking forward to the rest of this season now. All right, we're out of the Cups. Let's focus on the league. Let's focus on what Potter can do. I'm looking forward to the tactics that he will adopt against Fulham. I think he'll use the three at the back system again, the 3-4-2-1, the 3-2-4-1, whatever you want to call it. But there's something to look forward to. Right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, please consider becoming a subscriber of the channel. And whether you're a subscriber or not, please do hit that like button because it really helps to elevate the channel on YouTube. Thank you all, and I'll see you all soon.